What's up, guys? JP Coolman here. So as I'm sure you know by now, this week is the week of the saints. So we've been sharing different saint stories that inspire us, that accompany us in our journey of faith. And one person I want to talk about today is a girl named Chiara Corbella Petrillo, a young girl who died in 2012 in Italy. And what's amazing about Chiara, she's not a saint yet. She's a servant of God, which is that first step to becoming a saint. Then you're beatified, and then you're canonized. So hopefully in a couple years we can call her Saint Chiara, and we can ask for her intercession. But what's beautiful about Chiara is she didn't do anything amazing in her life. So she didn't do anything incredible, anything really noteworthy, other than saying yes to God each day with whatever God gave to her that day. So her and her husband Enrico got married young in their 20s. Beautiful couple, this beautiful love story. All they wanted to do was have a family. So they get pregnant shortly after getting married. But they find out really quickly, a couple months in, that there's some severe complications with the pregnancy. And they know they're going to lose the baby either before birth or soon thereafter. And the doctors even recommend terminating the pregnancy, having an abortion. And they said, no. This baby is our child. This little girl is a gift from God. And we're going to say yes to him right now. We're going to accompany this baby, our daughter, as long as God wants us to. So they accompanied their daughter all the way to birth. And Maria Grazia was her name. And they were able to kiss her and hold her and even baptize her before she died 30 minutes after being born. And people asked her, Chiara, would you have changed anything if you knew she was going to die after 30 minutes? And Chiara and Enrico said, no way. Those were 30 of the most beautiful minutes of our entire life. That precious gift, that child, Maria Grazia, we would have traded that for anything in the world. And a year later, they got pregnant again, this time with a boy. But again, a couple months into pregnancy, they found out there were some more complications with the pregnancy, and the baby boy wouldn't survive long after birth. And again, they said yes to the gift that God had given them, this child. The baby boy was born. They named him David Giovanni, this beautiful little boy. Again, they were able to hold him, kiss him, love him, and baptize him before he passed away shortly after being born. And in both cases, they said these two children are God's greatest gift to us, and they've opened the way to heaven. They said that these two babies are like their doorway to heaven, reminding them that they're made for more than this life, that they're made for heaven, this union with God forever. So Enrico and Chiara moved on from this, carrying these two children in their heart. And again, they got pregnant a third time, and they were overjoyed, so excited to be a mom and a dad. And a couple months into the pregnancy, they got tested again, the routine test, and the doctor said, this baby's healthy. This little boy on the way is just a beautiful boy, everything's okay. But then they came back and they said, listen, Chiara, but we have bad news for you. You have a malignant carcinoma that we have to operate on right away. If we don't operate now, there's a good chance that 4 or 5 months from now, after the birth of your baby, that the cancer will have spread throughout your body. And then she looked at Enrico and they asked the doctors, but what will happen to the baby? And they said there's a high likelihood the baby will be severely harmed or possibly even die from the treatment because it's so intense. And Chiara and Enrico knew without a doubt, without even question, they said, no, we're going to wait these 9 months. We're going to wait to give birth to this baby, and then we'll start the treatment. And some of the doctors, some of their friends tried to dissuade them and convince them not to do this. But Chiara and Enrico knew without a doubt this is what God was calling them to. That they were called to say yes in this moment to this gift of life God had given them. So they gave birth to a beautiful boy named Francisco. And shortly thereafter, they started the treatments, the intense treatments for Chiara. But a couple months in, they realized that this cancer had spread throughout her body. And so often they asked themselves why. She used to call this the dragon that was plaguing her, this cancer. And there were days where she was devastated, where she was so sad, disappointed, heartbroken that she was leaving Enrico without a wife. She was going to leave Francisco without a mom. But she knew deep down that God was calling her to say yes in this moment, that she couldn't understand why God had taken Maria Grazia back home. She couldn't understand why David Giovanni only lived 30 minutes, and now she couldn't understand why God was bringing her to heaven and not able to stay here with Francisco and Enrico on earth. But even though she didn't know the answers to those whys, all she could do was say yes and trust, because she knew deep down that we're made for more, that we're made for heaven. That's what those two babies who passed had told her, that they reminded her that we're born to never die. This was a phrase Enrico and Chiara used to love saying. They even had shirts made of it before Chiara passed. It said, we are born to never die, made for this fullness of life that God has in store for each one of his children. And that hope drove her on, realizing that we're made for life. And the second thing that Chiara just really emanates is this joy and this light. This picture here was actually taken just a few weeks before she passes away. And you see this picture and all you see is joy. all you see is this hope and this light emanating from her smile, emanating from her heart. And this light doesn't come from anything she has on her own. It doesn't come from having everything she wants in life, having a comfortable life, being secure, having everything in control. Everything in her life was outside of her control. And her friends and family used to ask her, Chiara, how are you so courageous? You have so much courage. You're only a 28-year-old girl. How can you have so much courage in the face of such darkness, in the face of death like this? And she said, on my own, I'm not courageous at all. I'm weak. She said, the only thing I can do is ask God for the grace to accept the grace. She said, all I can do is try to say yes to God each step of the way. And just as Chiara radiated that joy, that light, and that hope to all those around her, when we find that same secret that she had, that secret that her joy and her light didn't come from anything she had, it didn't come from any perfect plan that she had laid out that was happening, but it came from knowing the person who was on the cross with her and having the courage, having the trust to say, Jesus, help me to say yes to you each step of the way. Help me to say yes to you in every moment. Give me the grace to accept the grace.